like, frustrated, so that when you do feel happy and you have those moments where it does flow through you, you're grateful for that, or you're like able to say like, oh yeah, I'm happy right now, or um and yeah, it's like nobody's responsibility to do that for you. But then like you have to take in consideration like mental health,
Mm-hmm.
and knowing how to cater to yourself to say, hey, I'm feeling this way, what do I need? Instead of sulking and being like, oh, I feel depressed today. Okay, I'm going to sulk in it and I'm just going to stay depressed until it goes away.
Yeah.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, that is going to bring your partner down with you. You're both going to sink in that ship because they're going to keep filling you up and trying to fill you up and fill you up. And meanwhile, you're losing all that energy that they're giving to you and other things because you can't find your own happiness to the point where they're so drained that they can't put up with it anymore.
And I think I'm glad you said that, because at least for me, the relationship I did get out of, mental health was a big, big factor in it. That one, I wasn't prepared for. It wasn't anything that I was just going to shrug off to the side. Because throughout our time on and off this, I did educate myself on it. Obviously being in school, I had classes that helped along with that as well. But experiencing it firsthand, I was intrigued, to see like, what can I do? What should I not do? And so seeing that, at least for me, still to this day, it was still super tough to be around. And I think a lot of people don't want to educate themselves on it. They always just want to say, oh, just fix it yourself.
Yeah.
And let me know when you're done. And I don't think that's right, especially if you truly do care for someone. You definitely should be able to take that time to educate yourself on what they're going through to understand them better. Because if this is your person, you need to be putting in the work. You need to be able to evaluate all the signs. What are all the triggers? How can you help them? Help them cope. Help them get through these moments. So.
But it has to be like, they have to take the initiative though. Like you can't be like excuse my language, but like Captain Save-A-Ho out here, because it's like, okay, this person is saying, hey, like, I'm having all these internal struggles. Okay, let me look into it. Let me help you out. And then they're not doing the homework. They're not doing the research. So that burden is put onto you. Like, you're not a therapist, So now you have to be boyfriend, therapist, psychologist, lover, head of household, whatever. And it's like, okay, what's being reciprocated? Are your meals done for you? Or is your clothes clean? And I'm not saying like those are like the gender roles, but like, what is taken care of on your end from your partner, despite their internal struggles, that is, adding value to the fact that you are now creating another avenue of growth for yourself for that other person when you don't have to, because it's not affecting you like directly, it's affecting them, which then affects you.
Exactly.
So
you're just like stepping into the role now.
Yeah.
Trying to like take the brunt of it, and then you don't deserve that, if anything. Yeah.
But it is hard for both parties.
Yeah.
For both the one struggling and the one helping the struggle. Situationships.
Situationships. What constitutes a situationship? Something that just doesn't work? Are they flings? What would you say a situationship is?
I think it has a lot to do with that lack of communication and lack of commitment, right? It's like you're feeling each other, but that conversation just never comes up because you kind of both know you just don't want to talk about it, and you kind of want to ride the wave until it like subsides. But like, who stops the wave? Like, who does? Somebody does keep sailing, and somebody already hit the sand. You know. So.
Do you think they're more detrimental?
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Super take a toll.
There's all your energy, attention.
I think I will say this. I know we've all had our, fair share of like a good heartbreak, if we're experiencing it currently or in the past. But I feel like for me, my worst heartbreak was a situationship. It really was, because there was just like no communication. Like there was no closure. And that, like, to me, I was crazy, because it was like talking to myself. I had to answer my own questions. And my answers, I didn't like them, because I didn't know what was the other point, like, is this really the answer or is it not,
Leaves you in that limbo, especially if you're saying no communication, no closure. Yeah, definitely. And sometimes you could have an outlook afterwards, like, forget all these type of people, or, I'm never doing this again type. And I could potentially shut you off to whatever could be coming up, as your next lesson.
Yeah, you're blind to them.
I've even learned as well from my personal, griefs and gripes, that sometimes whatever you take, or you're still healing from, into the next situation could not be the best. Because now, instead of seeing that person for a newly person, you're seeing that person for what potentially they could cause to you that the other person did to you. And that's not starting off at square one. Yeah. It's not fair to them. It's not fair to yourself.
Because you've never met them, in that way, Exactly. So why, again, it's these past skeletons, hey, you better text me, within the hour, because my last relationship, they would go 3 hours without texting me, and I found out they were cheating on me, right? So it's like, so you don't do that. Yeah. And it's like, wait, no.
What kind of cause and effect did you just... and they're sitting there like, how did I, what am I doing?
What did I sign myself up for?
Yeah, but you're like, no, I'm not crazy. Thank you, exactly. So you dreaming up about these other people? Like what?
Let me see your activity,
How serious as you, Captain?
Yeah, I hate that part of it. And, I would say the past 4 or 5 years, and I think Kiwi been there probably the whole time for him, but bouncing from relationship to relationship to relationship. Again, we try and convince ourselves, yeah, it's what we want, but in reality, it's not what we need. And a lot of people always get those wants and needs mixed up based on what they're feeling right then and there. Yeah. But again, time does not stop. And you'll be right there week 1. Yeah, this is great. All right, well, weeks are going to turn into months. And then you're going to be like, oh, damn, I don't really like this. So, yeah, I've had my fair share. And definitely... that first heartbreak sucked, because you're left in limbo. You're trying to wrap your head around, okay, where did it go wrong? What did I do wrong? Right. You obviously can't get the other person to talk to you and say, okay, this is what went wrong. So now you're just stuck there scratching your head, and you just find yourself in the next relationship.
And then it causes like inner demons, because it's like you go into another, situationship or a relationship, and then these people, person's treating you nice, or, just a new type of, emotions arising, and you kind of, fight it, and you're like, no, they're just playing, or they're going to do the same thing, or they just want one thing, or, so, it is, in the true sense, trauma, because now you have this, fear of going back to those places that you were once at because of what another person did to you. But it really wasn't what they did or didn't do, it's how you reacted to it. Yeah. So, they're not even at fault either, for situationships or breakups. No one's in the wrong, because everyone's entitled to be happy, and be where they feel the most fulfilled. But you still have to react some way to it, whether you're going to take it as a learning experience and grow from it, even though it sucks and you hate it, or you're going to be victimized and you're going to be like, this is it, I'm never going to love again, I'm, everyone's the same, and just be stuck in this, the hole of, not being happy of the result, being stuck and saying, not knowing, hey, life goes on, you can keep expanding past this. Yeah. But
those traumas for sure can definitely dictate where you go in the future if you don't learn to cope with them, especially if you take that time by yourself to understand why you're feeling these ways, what brings these things on, your triggers, damn, this person did this to me, but I'm, instead of flying off the handle and being upset about it, I understand this happened before in the past. I dealt with it this way, and I understand this person did it because of this. You know.
And coping too, like that's the truth. Like when you heal, it is like, again, it goes back to like that grieving process, because you heal but you're coping with that loss, and you might think that you have healed at some point, and then like 10 years down the road you meet a new person and they like do some type of thing that triggers something inside you, and now you're back the 10 years and you're like, wow, I thought that this didn't bother me anymore, and like here I am, I'm triggered, like this person opened up this part of me that I thought was dead, and it's just like it's really a cycle for sure.
I just think that's the difference though, is when those moments do arise, it's how you deal with it. I mean, yeah, it can happen, you're like, well, damn, I remember that hurt. But you can just be like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Or you can be like, damn, that sucks. At least it's in the past. You just keep moving forward. And I think that's another thing with people being able to maturely handle those situations in relationships. They can either resent the other person for it, because unknowingly that person may have done something, not knowing about the other's past. But they can use that as a learning experience with, when that moment arises, okay, let me use this as another opportunity for my significant other to know more about that they obviously didn't know. So, I don't know, at least for me, I haven't been in too many like long-term relationships. I've been in serious relationships, just not too many long-term ones. And so I think this is probably my longest one that I've been in. And I mean, it was super tough, and it definitely opened my eyes to a lot of things. Is this something I want? Obviously we date to marry, so is marriage what I want? Do I feel like this is the right person that I want to spend the rest of my life with? At least for me, I was able to answer all those questions, and I didn't feel like she was the right one. In the beginning you obviously feel like they are, but obviously as time progresses things change. So it's not anything you can help. You're accustomed to like what you like. You're accustomed to feel how you feel. As long as you're happy with the decisions you're making, don't try and backpedal on it just because of that one time you were happy.
Yeah, and a lot of people do, go into relationships just to say they have something. Because it is definitely quality, and it's hard. I definitely feel relationships are really hard, because it's like you have to be at the same pace as someone, not necessarily on the same page, but just at the same pace, because you can say, hey, like, I'm not ready for kids right now. I know that eventually I do want kids. Do you want kids? And they'll be like, yeah, but like they can wait for you, and so that's like the same pace. Like they're willing to hold off on what they want because they know eventually they're seeing the whole picture, right? But yeah, I think right now, like, a lot of people have kids just to bind a relationship and think that that's gonna save them, and in reality it just makes things way worse, like way worse, because now it's a third party into whatever issues like that's going on. It's not two people being affected now, it's a third person who has nothing to do with the situation,
Who was it? Weekend's verse in that Hawaii remix with, is it Mutama?
Maluma?
Oh, when that just came out?
Yeah.
It's
with the...
J Balvin?
No. I think it's like Mutama or Mutama or something like that. It's fairly new, but yeah, it's a remix.
Okay.
And he of course has a verse in there that says he'd rather go half on a baby rather than spend the rest of his life with a woman.
Oh my God.
I was like, oh my gosh, now he's gonna put this shit into people's heads, and now they're just gonna go wild with it now.
But honestly, I feel like marriage is harder than being parents.
Oh yes.
Because I think co-parenting is a thing, and people can get to a point where they can be healthy co-parents. Now, in those cases, the family technically necessarily doesn't have to be broken, but it does like go against the traditional family that like mom, dad, child, right?
Yeah.
And like statistically, like that's a fact. Like if a child is from a broken family, they have less chances to succeed because they don't see that partnership.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think parenting is still easier than a relationship or marriage because it's like, okay, you get it's a partnership to deal with something outside of themselves instead of within themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that's why marriage is more difficult. And it's so weird too because like I feel like at my age, like I'm not saying like I feel like a failure because I'm like not in a relationship or anything, but I'm like thinking like I don't know why like I'm single if I've experienced like a healthy marriage my entire life. Like my parents have been married for like almost 20 something years.
I mean, times were easier then.
You know, but
times were way easier back
and
then.
like I've seen my parents go through it and they like stuck by each other. So I'm just like, wow, like where's the person that's gonna ride for me? You know, despite if times are easier or not, like it's really crazy.
That's love.
Yeah, that's really love.
What do you think about dating within your own ethnicity? Do you feel like it's easier? Do you feel like you do it for your family? Do you feel like it's like a generational thing? You want your kids to maintain their cultural beliefs and ideologies, or it's just not what's whatever. You know, you know what you're looking for. You find that one person, and it's one.
I mean, I don't really feel like I have a type per se. You know, to say, oh, I only want to date this
that's
this ethnicity or this ethnicity. You know, I think I'm pretty open-minded.
Okay.
Because I don't really go out and seek people to date. I feel like I kind of just react to what I attract.
Yeah.
You know, so I feel like within my culture, because there's a lot of races in my culture, you know, so I've dated outside my race within my culture. Like I've dated a Colombian, a Dominican, Puerto Rican, you know. I'm like throwing all these.
Right.
But
what is she like?
but like even with these different ethnicities, communication was really difficult with some because of the